Hello, Sharon. Sharon Bracken. This is Gail Cutler from the Rebecca's Dream Family Center through DBSA. And you and I are going to have time to discuss this magnificent book that you have written called Eli the Bipolar Bear. Welcome to the Rebecca Dream Family Center podcast.
Oh, thank you, Gail. It's very nice to have a conversation with you and talk about my story.
And beginning right with your story, Sharon, would you please tell our listening audience how you came to write this beautiful book?
I wrote the book about Eli the Bipolar Bear because I have a child, Eli, who was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when he was 9 years old. We found there was something unique about him. I have 3 children. I actually have 4 children now, but at the time I had 3. And Eli was he had more extreme behavior than my other children, and at times it was very scary and uncontrollable, and I didn't know really how to manage it. I started taking him to a psychologist when he was 7 just to find out what was going on with him. And by the time he was 9, we'd been through enough therapy and sessions. They did psychological screenings, and they determined that he had bipolar disorder. As a parent and an educator, I went out and looked for every resource that I possibly could for my son to help him understand what he was going through. And there were no children's books available for children with bipolar disorder. I found that there were plenty of resources available for adults and parents, about bipolar disorder, but there was nothing for the children. So they needed to understand, I think, what it was that bipolar disorder entailed and what people were talking about when they were referring to him as having bipolar disorder. So in looking for a resource for him and finding nothing, I had to do what probably any other parent would have to do, is create a resource and help educate her child. So I wrote the story, Eli the Bipolar Bear, and had it illustrated and got it published because it has become something that other people can use, I think, in helping their children or children that they work with understanding this disorder.
Absolutely. It's truly a wonderful book. Now, Eli was 9 when this all began. How old is he today?
He is 16 right now.
And was he along with you when you, what I mean to say is, did he approve of the writing of the book? Was he an active participant in the writing of the book? How did he feel about it?
At the beginning, he was pretty interested. He was excited because I was giving him a lot of attention because he said, "Oh, you're writing a book about me, and I want to talk about it." And so he went out and he was pretty excited about the book itself. And my mother made a costume that looked like the character in the book, and he would wear it when I would go and talk to people. And he was open, and he was interviewed by others about what bipolar disorder was and what he was feeling. And he felt very important. He felt very unique and individual and special. He has gone through a number of phases since then where he feels like, I don't want people to know this about me. I don't want you to tell people about me. And on the other hand, if 5 minutes later he'll say, this is really cool, you guys should read my book, maybe it'll help understand what's going on. So he goes back and forth about how he feels about it. But initially his feeling was, this is great, and it's about me, and I want people to understand what I'm going through.
Oh, that's wonderful. Does he go out on speaking tours with you now at 16?
He doesn't now, but he is considering it now that the book is out again. I had initially published the book in 2003, a different version. It's the same story but different illustrations and very short, small print run, and that's when he was really into it. And now as he's getting older, he wavers in what he wants to do. There are days where he really wants to be involved in it, and there are other days where he doesn't want anyone else to know.
It sounds like a typical 16-year-old.
Yes, it does.
Wavering back and forth. I have a prototype copy of the book in front of me. I do not yet have the real copy. I think you mentioned that you were launching the book. Is it this coming weekend, May 17th?
Yes, Sunday, May 17th, I'm doing a book launching here in Norfolk, Virginia from 1 to 4 p.m., and I've got 2 books that I'm highlighting, but one of them is Eli the Bipolar Bear, and we'll be displaying the books and reading the books, and I've got some specialists coming in to talk about bipolar disorder, and we will have a panel discussion about it as well.
Mm-hmm. I have a very important question for you. How will people be able to locate your book?
Our books I listed them this morning on Amazon.com. The books have just come in, so I have the hard copy in my hand. I'm very excited about it. I posted them on Amazon.com this morning. They say it takes sometimes up to 24 hours for the listing to show up. When I looked before I got on the phone, I saw that my old listing from 2003 was still up there. So there will be two versions. So if anyone's listening to this, I would like for them to know that the 2009 version is available, and we do have plenty of books in stock. It is also available through the Elijah Foundation website. It's theelijahfoundation.org. There's a link for Child Heroes Publishing, and anyone can link onto that and click an order form and mail a form in and receive the books that way as well.
Wonderful. I think that information is important enough that we should repeat it toward the end of our discussion today.
Sure. Okay.
In the meantime, I would like to go into the body of the book. As I said, I have a prototype copy in front of me, so I don't have pages. But what I would like, I'm going to ask you to do something for me, long distance. I am looking at, first of all, the illustrations are fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Our illustrator from California. He's wonderful. He's going to be illustrating a few more books for us.
Does he know about mental health issues? How did his illustrations take on the life that they did?
I don't know what he is a graphic artist by trade. I told him that expression was the key to illustrating any of my stories, and that he really had to capture the feeling of the characters as he read through the story itself, and I think he's done just that.
Oh, he has. They're absolutely wonderful. Were there any changes made from the copy that I have to the final edition?
No, none of the illustrations or words have changed since then. The only thing that's been added are the front pages, and there's a foreword that was put in, and some other additional, I guess, formatting pages.
Okay. Would you mind if I asked you to read some of the copy?
Oh, I don't mind at all.
Okay. This is the page that I'm looking at. It's across from the wonderful picture of Eli and his friends with their hockey sticks.
Oh, yes. He's wearing a red shirt with a number 7 on it.
Number 7, right. And it starts out with Eli was happier.
Sure.
Would you mind reading that paragraph for us? I think it's just illustrative of the nature of your book and how beautifully written it is.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Eli was always happier, sadder, and angrier than the other bears around him. His moods would change so quickly that it was sometimes frightening. So the other polar bears were confused about Eli. His teachers, friends, and family could not understand why Eli was so happy and full of energy some of the time, and so grumpy and sad, or even really mean the rest of the time.
For me, I wish that I had had this book and these words when I was raising my Rebecca. Way back then, of course, there was absolutely nothing. You found difficulty. Well, for me, it was parents like me. It was a vast wasteland when it came to children and mental health issues. And in fact, it was really a mother who was blamed for everything.
Wow.
So here you have it right in black and white that Eli had emotions going on inside of him that were very difficult for him to understand and for others to understand as well. And I want to give you a personal yay and thank you.
Thank you so much.
All of those coming up who now will have something that they can, a parent can refer to, a teacher can refer to, a child in particular can refer to. Well, look, here it says right in the book, this is what I'm feeling. And even when children cannot put words attached to their feelings, don't you find it much easier to go to a resource and say, well,
look at resources, yes. I look books for everything. When in my past, I've worked with families and children in a number of different venues, and for me, it's much easier for a child to have a tangible object that is talking about what they're going through, regardless of their issue. And it could be anything. It could be that they don't like the freckles on their face. It could be that they're a little overweight. But to have some kind of a book that's going to relate to what they're going through helps a child understand, and it gives them something to grasp hold of and say, okay, somebody else is going through the same thing that I am. It's not just me.
Yes, I just think that's so important, and I can see, my vision is that your book is going to be in not only the libraries in school, it should be in school book libraries, but also on nightstands, children's nightstands, and on a parent's nightstand to grab when something is going on and you need an explanation.
Oh, thank you. I hope it is. I hope it is.
I just have that vision. I have another. This, I think, is very, very important in the body of the book with the wise old bear. And the page that I'm looking at is the wise old bear wearing his nose pins glasses and Eli sitting together looking at a book.
Okay. All right.
And the part of the wise old bear, I'm believing you're writing about a therapist.
Yes, I am.
Okay, and to state that clearly as a wise old bear, I think brings great comfort for children and for parents alike, because so many folks are afraid of the word therapist, counselor, doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist, psychopharmacologist. But the wise old bear is just so dear and warm and fuzzy.
Oh, I think he is warm and comfortable looking, and I think he's, in a polar bear world, he's more of a grandfather-type figure, and that's how he's supposed to be portrayed, so the child feels comfortable and feels like he can approach the wise old bear. And I do. I feel like someone could. He's not wearing a lab coat. He doesn't look like a doctor, per se.
No.
He looks like a grandfather and somebody that could be nurturing.
Yes, and you label, in the label, again, I'm going to hit home on this one, the wise old bear. I love that, wise old bear, that gives him gravitas. Would you mind, I'm going to impinge on your very good nature, would you mind reading the paragraph that's across from that lovely illustration of the wise old bear and Eli that starts with the wise old bear said that these challenges.
Okay. Did you want just that paragraph, or did you want both paragraphs on that page?
Let's go for both. I think they're fantastic.
Okay, thank you. I will. The wise old bear said that these challenges were not Eli's fault. He said that sometimes, when bear cubs are born, certain parts of the brain don't work well together. And if the parts are not working well like they should, a little polar bear might have confusing changes in mood. Because of these moods that are really up or really down, a polar bear might have some problems at home, in school, and with friends. Polar bear cubs that have really up moods and really down moods like Eli are called bipolar bears. His friends and family cannot get sick because of it, but it can be unsafe and upsetting for others if Eli does not get help.
It's phenomenal. Just phenomenal. How long did it take you to put those two paragraphs together? What was going on in your own head as a writer?
Well, you know, when I wrote this book, it was more of an epiphany. I woke up in the middle of the night and said, I was so frustrated with trying to get a resource, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I wrote the book out, the whole book from beginning to end. I didn't go through probably what most authors do and write out an outline and think about what to say. I just wrote his story out and what we had gone through and his experience. And then I went through and edited these things out. But what I came to was trying to help children understand that it's not their fault. And when people call them bad or mean, it's not that. And I want them to understand that it's something that's going on inside of him that he can't control without help. And that nobody else can get it, and that it's not scary for anyone. I mean, it's scary if he's not doing what he's supposed to do as far as getting help. But receiving the help was very important. And I think I was just trying to get to the point that all children, if they're going through this, they really need to consistently receive some help so that they can move forward.
And how important this is for the caretakers, the parents, family, the extended family,
absolutely,
teachers, all those folks in this child's life. How many times did you hear, Sharon, I know we heard it, from those who loved my daughter most of all, oh, you're just spoiled. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. For heaven's sake, you've got everything. What's the matter with you? Et cetera, et cetera.
I got all of that as well, and I'd say, can you just tell him to stop it? Can you just make him behave?
Right.
And I'd say, doing the best I can to make him behave. I can't be with him 24/7. And once I got this book, the first edition of this book, out to his teachers, the attitude and the tone of the school changed.
Absolutely.
They started to understand, okay, this is what he's going through. The problem was they didn't understand what bipolar disorder was, and they weren't going to sit down and read the 300-page thick book that's available to adults to understand the disorder. Having them read a 32-page children's book brought them to terms with what they needed to do for this child and what he was going through. And
I think
this simple book helped them understand how to move forward.
Yes, and you know, what I'm going to say is going to sound facetious, but I actually mean it. I think that those of us living with, taking care of, raising our loved ones with bipolar disease should carry this book on our person all the time. Because how many times have we been in public settings, in social settings, when there's a trigger for our child, for our loved one? It could be anyone within the family.
It could be anywhere, and it could be anything. It could be an amusement park. It could be a restaurant.
Right.
It could be anywhere. And I agree with what you're saying, because people don't understand. And if you could just throw a book at them, or just please just read this quickly.
Here, take a look at this, and then you'll understand.
Yes.
I really am saying that from the depth of my soul, because of the awful experiences that we went through and that Rebecca lived with. So you are doing such a service for not only your Eli, but for the entire world, the world of mental health, and to bring understanding, compassionate understanding, which is so much a part of Rebecca's Dream mission statement. It's just incredible.
Thank you.
I want to go on because there's something else here. Do you mind the reading?
No, not at all.
Okay. All right, so I think it's the very next page where the wise old bear is giving a fish to Eli. It looks like at breakfast.
Okay.
And
it's actually a parent. It's one of the parents.
Oh, it's the parent. Okay.
Yes, and Eli's taking a fish out of a little bucket.
Right.
And the picture on the bucket I thought was really cute because it has a prescription label.
Yes.
And the prescription was just eat one fish with breakfast every day.
Yes.
And I thought that was really cute.
It is. And Eli's smiling, and he has his hand in the bucket taking the fish. And as we know, it isn't always easy to coerce our children into taking medication, especially when they're very young.
Absolutely. Well, let me read this page.
Please.
The wise old bear told Eli and his parents that with regular help, Eli could be more like his friends. This helped Eli feel much better. All he wanted to do was to be like the other polar bears. Eli didn't want to be different. So the wise old bear gave Eli a bucket of special, tasty little fish that he could eat every morning with breakfast. The wise old bear said that the tasty fish would help with Eli's big mood changes. He also asked Eli to come back and visit him once a week so they could talk about how things were going. Eli was encouraged that he might soon feel better.
Well, how did your son feel when he read that?
My son did not really understand the pill thing, and I wasn't getting support from his father at the time as far as giving medication. I am not somebody who pushes medication at all, but in my child's case, he really needed something. He needed something to help him maintain his mood and not be so sporadic and extreme. So I looked around, and I got what was best for him, for his size and his body type and all this. And the pills worked. It took a few days. He was tired at the beginning. There was some adjustment period, and he complained at the beginning. He said, "Mom, these pills are making me really sleepy." But he did notice after about 2 weeks that he was getting better in school. His friends were happier with him. The family was complimenting him. The teachers were complimenting him. And so he noticed a difference after just a short period of time. So the pills were working. And so with this section in the book, with the fish, he can relate to how that made him feel.
Absolutely. How is he, may I ask, you do not have to answer this question, but may I ask how he is doing with medication today at the age of 16, which is another, being 16 is just tough all the way around.
Well, I will say that I'm very challenged right now because he is not on medicine right now. And I am struggling with that as a parent. His father did not agree with it, and Eli was getting older, and when he got to puberty, things started changing, and he needed a different dosage and kind of a new cocktail mixture. He was not receiving that, and his father told him not to take the medicine anymore. And right now he is not on it, and so we do have some challenging behavior. While he at least gets through this teenage years, I am still struggling.
Yeah.
So I have not found all the answers.
No, and I'm not sure that any of us ever will find all of the answers, but your son knows that how much better he felt when he was taking medication, and my hope is that he will come to that realization soon.
I hope so as well. And it is my desire, as you can tell from doing the book, my job is to save my child and to educate my child and to help him survive and succeed as a person. And so as long as I live, I'm going to keep plugging away trying to help him. Right now, he's going through teenage years, and I can't keep him on a medicine. But let's hope that something will happen in his life that he will come back and say, "Okay, Mom, I'm ready to try to straighten myself out again."
Yes, maybe that will be your next book, Eli the Bipolar Teenage Bear.
Well, I've had people request one, and I haven't written it yet because there's so many different things, and every week there's a new story. I could write probably a whole series. But yes, I am working. I'm going to start working on it. I've got notes.
Yeah.
But the next book will be written.
That too is so important. You know, when they're 9 and 10 and 11, we still have a little bit of control, but once those teen years, preteen and teen years hit, it becomes a very complicated, complex story.
That's right.
So I want to go to I believe it's the last page. There are 3 polar bears.
Yeah.
Eli is in the middle with his red hockey jersey. By the way, does he play hockey?
He has played hockey. But he's not a hockey player. He's more of a soccer player.
Ah, okay.
But
so
polar bears, that's the closest to soccer we're going to get, I think, up in the polar region.
So that was very cute. Did you have to think about what sports to use in the book?
Actually, no. The illustrator took that upon himself.
Uh-huh.
And he sent me back some pictures, and I just thought it was wonderful. I showed Eli the pictures, and he had to approve all of them before they were done. I said, "Is this okay? You know, I want to represent this correctly." He says, "No, I think hockey's cool." He'd always played street hockey, you know, just around here with kids, but he'd never formally played on a hockey team. So he liked the idea of hockey, and it was relatively close to soccer, so moving forward, I thought it was a cute picture.
It's phenomenal, and if polar bears are going to be playing any sport, you'd think it would be hockey.
I think so.
There's this last page that I think is so fantastic. Once again, I'm going to infringe on your lovely nature, and would you please read this last page for us? For me, it's very, not just helpful, but very hopeful.
Okay. A few weeks later, Eli really did feel better. He felt more like everyone else. Eli laughed when everyone else laughed. He didn't get angry or throw things like he used to, and he didn't get wild and out of control as often. The tasty fish and the talks with the wise old bear were working. There were still some days when Eli felt sad and angry, but not like before. With time, Eli's life was much easier at home, and his grades in school were better, too. Mama and Papa Bear noticed that Eli made more friends than ever before. His friends liked and trusted Eli and wanted to be around him again. Even Eli liked himself better, too.
Well, there just couldn't be a better way to end this book. Even Eli liked himself better, too. Isn't that what we're hoping?
That is exactly what we're hoping.
And that it sticks for our children.
I think it is a challenge. Bipolar disorder doesn't go away. It's not something that we can fix overnight, but it is a challenge that we're going to continue to cope with and work with, and we're going to do the best we can as parents to educate our children and to lead them to have a healthy life.
Absolutely. I want to ask you another question. You spoke of your other children.
Yes.
And for those listening to our podcast, can you speak a bit about the Eli siblings and how they all relate to Eli, to each other? Is there ever conversation in the house about, oh, Eli, you've got this thing, and anything that you can help our listeners with?
Sure. And
siblings.
Let me start at the beginning. I have 4 children, at the time that Eli was diagnosed, I had 3 children. I adopted a teenager, much later on. My older son was 2 years older than Eli, and I had a son that was 2 years younger than Eli. That being said, they were frustrated. The reason we initially took Eli to the doctor was because he was really violent with his younger brother. It was to a point where he was breaking things. He was hurting his younger brother. I was struggling all the time because I didn't know, what to do with this child, and it was dangerous. And I felt like if I left the room, something might happen. Is he going to hurt his brother? Is he not going to hurt his brother? And my mother was growing concerned because she watched my children when I wasn't around, and she said, "I'm really worried that he's going to kill him. I don't know what to do about this." So there was an issue. And my older son, he wanted to protect everybody. He was the peacemaker in the household, and he wanted to do whatever he could so that his little brother, Eli, didn't get in trouble, and his other little brother didn't get killed in the meantime. So it was a constant challenge around the house. They understood because I was, talking to them all the time about, what was going on with Eli and, be nice to him, and it was tough. It was tough. So anyway, Eli was trying to understand what he was going through. His brothers were very challenged trying to figure out what he was going through, and it was dangerous, and he was hurting people, and, his brothers, not other people, but...
And what ages were they at this time?
Let's see, when Eli was 9, Josh would have been 11, and Tommy would have been 7.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let me read you a couple of quotes here from this story that our local newspaper wrote on him, and this is in July of 2005. Eli has deep brown eyes that dance with giddy liveliness. Those same eyes can flame into rage and settle into dark pools of hollow despair. It can happen really fast, the 12-year-old boy, the Norfolk boy says. I can go through everything in an hour. It has been 6 years since he was first diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a mental condition of radical mood swings. That's 6 years of wrestling down emotions, wrecking rooms, upending friendships, but also 6 years of figuring out how to describe what's going on inside his adolescent self. And then Eli goes on to say, I took every emotion to the extreme. That was me. If I thought something was funny, I'd laugh for 10 minutes. Everyone else would have had a little chuckle, and I'd keep laughing and enjoying myself. Eli describes the flip side, too. When other people get disappointed, they just get angry, and they get over it, he says. When I get mad, I break something. I break it to where it's unfixable. When I hurt someone's feelings, I couldn't just apologize like other people do. It was always worse than that.
Oh, my. He was 9 when he...
He was 9 when he was diagnosed. He was 13 when this article was written.
Oh, my goodness. There's such insight
But
for a 13.
Yes. And then she goes on to ask him, what he thought about the book, and he said, it was really funny to me because it was my life. And I'm pretty sure that there's more than one person that has bipolar disorder.
Very articulate.
He spoke very well. I'm looking down here in this article as well for other areas in the book that are in this article. One of his teachers said that he came to her with distant, hollow-like eyes and said, I have to go home or I'm going to get in trouble. And I remember that day really well. He called me from the school and he says, Mom, you have to come get me right now. And I said, why? He says, because I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble, Mom. I can't control myself right now. You have to come and get me.
Mm.
And then after he was this is when he was actually on medication that he was interviewed by this reporter. And he says, on the medicine, I don't freak out as much. It's not like it's some big mystery. I mean, just little quotes that he said. I still get angry, but not as bad. I still do some of the things, and I get sad, and I've considered killing myself. I've come a long way from smashing things, breaking things, and having people mad at me. Now my grades are coming up, sort of. So these are just some of the quotes from this article, and I go back and read it, and sorry.
It's all right. It's hard to. It's hard. It's very hard. I don't know if you would agree with me or not, Sharon, but it seems to me that those of our children who live with bipolar, that used to be called manic depression,
yes,
are the best, the brightest, the most articulate, the most empathic folks around. They seem to have a sixth sense, not only about themselves, but about others around them. My daughter did.
Eli's very bright and very articulate, and I think he's absolutely brilliant.
Yes, and I know my daughter was exactly that. In fact, she would get into trouble in her teen years, zeroing in on some of her girlfriends who were going through eating disorders and lots of different things. And Rebecca just somehow knew, called them out on it, and of course that ended a relationship. So it does take the capability to monitor one's thoughts along with the empathy and the sometimes all-knowing, all-seeing sensitivity that our children have, along with everything else that goes with bipolar. I wonder if Eli would feel that way.
I think he might. He definitely is perceptive, and he can read a room when he walks in, and he understands people when he sees them.
Yes.
Which he's much better at than I am.
Yes. Well, the same thing with my daughter. It was almost a psychic ability. I don't want to stretch this too far or put words out there that may not be so, but I know that's the way it was for Rebecca. Sharon, what would you like to share with us that I have not asked you? Is there anything else in the wonderful book, Eli the Bipolar Bear, that you would like to share with us? Any thoughts that you have?
Just that in the very beginning of the book, I talk about how Eli was born early. He was born a little prematurely, which had nothing to do with bipolar disorder, which some people have commented, Sharon, does that have anything to do with it? It doesn't. When he was little, the doctors did not know that there would be anything wrong with him. And I think people also need to understand it's not something they're going to be able to diagnose at birth or when a child is just small. You know, they're going to come home from the hospital being as healthy as every other child. Warning signs, I would think, when he was small, other than he was super intelligent at a very young age. But he also had anger issues at a much younger age than my other children did. And not that every child is supposed to be the same, by no means do I ever expect that. But his anger was intense. And he had a lot of warning signs at early ages that maybe other kids did not.
Did your pediatrician pick up on anything?
No. Mm-hmm. No. Because he could turn it on and off pretty easily. He was very, very smart. So we went to the doctor, and he would go in and go through his physical and be just fine. Eli had some other medical conditions because of his prematurity, so he saw a lot more doctors. He had some respiratory failure as a baby, and he was in the hospital quite a bit. And, but he, as a baby, with his moods the way they were, and who knew, at that time that he was bipolar or whatever, but when he got angry in the hospital, he would rip the IVs out with his teeth.
Oh, my gosh.
He had extreme, they had to put him in a straitjacket in the hospital because he could not be controlled as a 1-year-old. They had to have 4 people hold him down. Mm-hmm. But, again, it was almost like he was tortured, the poor thing, because he really had to be at the hospital quite a bit for his respiratory problems. And they had to put needles in him, and they had to, do things to him. But, again, not so much pertaining to bipolar disorder, but himself. So I think that he had some reservations about doctors to start off with, and he learned really quickly how to work a doctor.
Yes, to his advantage.
Yes, and when he was going through his psychological screenings when he was a little bit older, he came home, and he'd been in for a 2-hour psychological test, and I said, well, what happened? What did you do? And he said, Mom, it was the funnest thing I've ever done in my whole life. And I said, really? Well, what happened? He said, they would give me stories, and I would get to finish the story. I would get to tell my side of what the story was, or they would show me a picture, and I would get to make a whole story up about what that picture was. And he liked telling stories, and he's very, very good, and he has a wonderful imagination. So his psychological testing to him was this wonderful, fun, exciting thing to do.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, do you think that, the question is, has Eli ever talked about writing his own story?
He has talked about it. I don't know that he ever will. He doesn't follow through on a lot of the plans he's got in life, but that could be something to do with being a 16-year-old boy as well.
Right.
Right now his goals are, driving a car and, going on dates, so.
So he has his license already.
He does have a driver's license, yes.
Sleepless nights for Mom.
Absolutely. But 3 of my 4 children are driving, so, when my youngest one wants to drive desperately.
Oh, my
Lots
goodness.
of sleepless nights.
Lots of them. Just give up the idea of sleep.
Yes.
Sharon, what would you like to say to our listening audience as final words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom. Love your children. Love them no matter what. If you can help them in any way, shape, or form, then do it. If you can't find a resource for your child, create the resource. But always love them. My mother said you can't fail with a child if you love them. And I think sometimes we just get frustrated because of all the behaviors and the different challenges that our children are going through. That sometimes it's easy to kind of say, gosh, I just need to throw in the towel. I just need a break. But you can't. You have to keep on going for your child's sake, and you have to just keep helping them and keep loving them no matter what.
And no matter what the age.
And no matter what the age.
Thank you, Sharon Liddle. Eli the Bipolar Bear is just the most wonderful gift you have given to children, to their parents, to the society at large. And on behalf of Rebecca's Dream Family Center and the DBSA, I personally thank you from the bottom of my heart, wishing that I had had such a book when my child was growing up.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. This has really been a joy to be able to talk to you and share with you what I've gone through and why I created my story.
You are a marvel and a wonder, and we all wish you strength and health and the best that life has to offer. Thank you so much for being with us.